Alright guys, so now that you saw what we'll be building, let's go ahead and start. Now for the project files for this section, or I'm sorry, this lecture, you should have a zip file called theme starter. What you need to do is download that and extract it, okay? And this is basically what we're going to be using for the next few themes that we build, or the next few projects. So I'm going to create a new folder for our project. I'm going to call it Travelville. And then what I'll do is open that up, and let's bring everything over from the theme starter folder. Okay, and then we'll go over all of that stuff. So let's copy it over. Don't move it, just copy it, because we're going to be reusing these files. Okay, and then I'm going to open up Travelville in my text editor, which I'm using VS Code. So I'm just going to say open with code. All right, let me just bring that over. And we'll go ahead and snap this to the side here. Okay, and let's just take a look at these files real quick. So we have an index.html, which I'll go over in a second. We have a CSS folder that has the main Materialize CSS file. We're working with version 0.100.2. And as I mentioned before, when there's an update, I will be updating the course. It might just take a month or two after the update, okay? But I would definitely suggest using the version that's in the theme starter rather than the newer version, just in case there's any class changes or anything like that and you don't get messed up. All right, we also have a main.css file, which is just an empty CSS file for any custom styles we have. In the fonts folder, we just have our Roboto fonts. This all comes with Materialize. We have an images folder, which is empty right now. A JavaScript folder with the Materialize minified JavaScript file, and then our index.html, which is basically if you go to get started on the Materialize site, it's basically that markup with a couple things added. So we have our material icons here, so we can use those. We have the main Materialize CSS file linked. We have our main.css file for custom styles. We have a viewport for responsive sites or responsiveness, a title which will change through each theme, and then in the body we just have an h1. And then at the bottom we have our script tags, which include jQuery, the Materialize minified JavaScript, and then just a custom script tag with anything that we want to do in here, such as initialize components, or if we want to do some custom JavaScript or anything like that, or custom jQuery. All right, so that's what we'll be working with, guys. So what we're going to do now, before we start on the body, is I just want to grab Font Awesome real quick. All right, because we want to use Font Awesome for the social icons because they're not available with material icons. So let's see, I just want to make this bigger. We're not going to do exact half and half because I want to have a lot of room here. But let's go to fontawesome.com. And version 5 was just released. The whole website was redone. Now we're using SVG icons. But if we go to get started, and right here you'll see this script tag. This is so we can use the SVG icons with JavaScript. So we're just going to paste that in the head right here, and we should now be able to use those. All right, so we'll save that, close this up. Actually, yeah, we'll just open a new tab and close that. And then what we're going to do is open this file. Now you can just open the HTML file on your file system if you want, but since I'm using live server, I'm just going to right click and say open with live server. And again, if you're using VS Code and you want that, just click on the extension icon and search for it and install it. Okay, and I'll just close this sidebar up here. So this is what the theme starter looks like. Nothing pretty. It's just a basic boilerplate. So first thing we're going to do is add our navbar. So let's go over here and let's get rid of this H1. And I want this navbar to be fixed. And if you remember from the sandbox chapter or lecture, we have to wrap the nav in a div with the class of navbar-fixed. So we're going to do that, and then we'll put our navbar, which I'm going to give a class of teal because I want it to have a teal background color. Okay, we're also going to put a container so that everything is kind of moved to the middle, and then we need our div with the class of nav wrapper, and inside that we'll have our branding. So it's going to be a link with the class of brand-logo. And for the href, I'm just going to put hash home. And then in here, we'll just say Travelville. Okay, underneath that, we're going to want our collapse button for the side nav. So it'll be another A tag with the class of button-collapse. And for the href, we'll just put a hash, but this is going to have a special attribute called data activates. Okay, and we're going to set this. You can set this to anything you want. I'm going to say mobile nav. Just make sure that when you actually create the menu for the mobile nav, it has that same ID. And then inside the A tag here, we're going to have an icon. So all of our material icons need to have a class of material icons. And then whatever icon we want, we put in the middle here. And I'm going to use the menu icon. Okay, now underneath this A tag, we're going to put our regular menu links. So it's going to be a UL. I'm going to give it a class of right so that it floats everything to the right. And then I want this to be hidden on anything under a large screen, so medium screens and down. So there's actually a class we can use for that called hide on MED and down, like that. All right, and then we'll put some LIs in here with some A tags. This is going to go to hash home, and the text will say home. And then what I'll do is just copy these down. We're going to have 5 of these. And this one here is going to be for the search. It's going to go to hash search. All right, this one here is going to go to, let's say, popular places. And it's going to go to hash popular. All right. This next one here is going to go to, let's see, it's going to go to hash gallery. This is going to be our little image gallery. And then the last one is going to be for the contact. So that will go to hash contact. All right, now if I save that, we're going to get our nav bar. Now for the side menu, if I were to make this smaller, those links should disappear once we hit medium. This isn't going to work yet for 2 reasons. One, we didn't create the links yet, and one, we didn't initialize it in the JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is just copy this entire UL, and in a lot of cases you'll see the sidebar UL right under this UL, but since we have a navbar fix div right here, if we do that, we're not going to be able to click on any of the sidebar links. It's going to be all grayed out. So I don't think it says this in the documentation, but what you want to do is put your sidebar UL under this div, okay, which ends right here. So we're going to go right here and paste this in, and then just change the class to Sidenav. And we're going to add an ID of mobile nav. And the only reason we're using mobile nav as the ID is because that's what we put right here as the data activates. Okay, so it's going to activate the mobile nav. And we're just going to keep the same links. All right, now last thing we need to do is initialize it. So down in the JavaScript here within the document.ready, we're going to just say jQuery for the button collapse. And we want to call .sideNav, like that. So just make sure you save it, and we'll go over and click, and there we go. So now we have our side nav. All right, so I'm going to stop the video here, and in the next one we're going to move on to the slider, the big image slider with the captions. So I will see you in the next video.